Hi, it's me, Colleen McCray Katz. Welcome back to my kitchen. Tonight I'm making an appetizer that I call Silky Smooth Shrimp Soup Shooters. It's a lot to say, but it's really delicious and easy to make. But we're going to do my savory shrimp chowder, a version of it. I've changed it up a little bit, and I've made it so that we can serve it in these shooter glasses. So here's our ingredients. We have 4 cups of chicken broth, a tablespoon of butter, a half a cup of sweet onion, and you want to chop that pretty finely, and that's one of the accommodations we're making for the shooters. I have about 3/4 of a pound of very small popcorn sized shrimp. That's another thing you're going to want to do. You're going to want to get the small shrimp or chop up your shrimp small so that they'll fit into the shooter size glasses. They're cooked, they're deveined, they're peeled, they're ready to go. We don't have to do anything with those. We have a cup of uncooked instant rice. I have a can of condensed cream of mushroom soup. I'm going to use a tablespoon of fresh basil, a tablespoon of fresh dill, a half teaspoon of seasoning salt. I'm going to use a half teaspoon of my fresh ground black pepper, a cup of milk, and I use skim milk because that's what I always have around the house. You can use whatever kind of milk that you usually have around. I use a tablespoon of cornstarch, and the star of our show, Philadelphia cream cheese, and I'm using the whipped cream cheese. I really like the whipped. So the other thing that I'm adding, these are about 6 slices of thin white bread that I toasted. Then I cut them with a heart-shaped cookie cutter, and I cut the hearts in half. And we're going to use those to stick in our shooters so that people can dunk them and scoop up their soup with those and all that. So the first thing we're going to do is melt our butter, a tablespoon of butter, in a large soup pot or stock pot, or my mother used to call this a Dutch oven. I don't know why, but that's what she used to call it. So that's the first thing you're going to do. Our butter's melted, and now we're going to add in our onions over about a medium-high heat. We're going to let those saute for a couple of minutes. You don't want them to brown, you just want them to be soft and translucent so that they're cooked but they're not browned. So you only want to let them go for a couple of minutes. And you want to stand here the whole time, keep your eye on them and keep them moving. Now that the onions are nice and translucent and soft, it's time to add just about everything else. So we're going to add in our chicken broth, our shrimp, and as you add each thing, you'll see it starts to really bulk up. This is our milk, and really become a significant amount of soup. This is our rice. And we're going to add in our cornstarch. To make sure your cornstarch doesn't glob up and get all lumpy, I use my strainer and I stir it in while I sift it through the strainer. And that makes it go in more smoothly. And you keep stirring as you're adding it in. That's a little tip on cornstarch. Some people put it in water and they shake it up and they add it in that way, but I do it this way and it works out pretty well. You're going to add in your half teaspoon of seasoning salt and half teaspoon of black pepper. And now I'm going to snip in my fresh basil, about a tablespoon of that. This really adds a lot of flavor. I really love fresh basil. It smells so good. And I can always tell when something has fresh basil on it. It just makes the world of difference in anything that it's in. We're going to put in the cream of mushroom soup now. That will help thicken things up. And I have to tell you, this isn't the exact recipe, but during the winter time, especially this last winter in Philadelphia, we had a lot of snow. And whenever it would snow, I would make either shrimp or chicken corn chowder. I have a very long 45-degree angle driveway. It probably could park 6 or 7 cars on it. So if it goes over 6 inches of snow, we get plowed. And so it happened a lot this winter. We got plowed a lot. Okay, so that's my tablespoon of fresh dill. And this was already to a simmer. You let it come up to a simmer. And then the final thing is the star of the show, our Philadelphia whipped cream cheese, a half a cup of that. The first time, we just moved to this house 2 years ago. And the first winter we were here was, of course, a horrible winter. And like I said, we have this really long driveway. It goes down and then it turns and then you can go into our garage. And all of the houses along our street have the same setup. They all have the same driveways. So we always park in the garage. That's just what we do. And they were predicting a really big snowstorm. And I noticed all of our neighbors were parked at the very ends of their driveways out by the sidewalk. And I thought that was odd because none of them ever parked there before. We were parked in the garage. I didn't think anything of it. So we just stayed parked in the garage. And then I realized later why they all parked at the top of the driveway. Because we were stuck in our house for 3 days until the plow guy could come and plow us out and get our car out of the garage. We couldn't go anywhere. All they had to do was dig out about 2 feet of the end of their driveway, and the street was nicely plowed, and they were all out the next day. So I learned quickly that when they predict a snowstorm, I have to park at the end of the driveway facing out towards the street. It would have been nice if one of the new neighbors had come over and told us that, but we learned that really quickly on our own. Now if you want to come in and look, you can see what that Philadelphia cream cheese did to the soup. It really made it nice and creamy and thick. It really looks delicious. It smells even better. Okay, so it's really done, and we're going to serve it up in our shooter glasses. I'm not quite sure how I'm getting it into the shooter glasses. I'm just using a tablespoon to spoon this into my shooters, and I'm trying to make sure that I get some shrimp into each one, and it's working pretty well. You don't want them too full. Hi, we're here in my family room. I just want to show you another room of my house. This is a project I made out of an old Trivial Pursuit game. I just glued everything down and put it in a shadow box, just another one of my crafts. And over here is my pride and joy, my little Joey. That's his christening. And down here are our silky smooth shrimp soup shooters. But this is what we call our magic table here in my house. You ready? Keep watching. Ta-da! This is one of my favorite things of a taste test with these. Very good. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you again. Bye-bye.